Welcome to the No Limits podcast with Lisa Jakofsky. As an author, Lisa shares fellow authors whose work has a special message. Aspiring writers find these conversations inspiring and helpful for their own upcoming or current journey. In addition, Lisa's experience helps families with children or adults with special needs, or anyone interested in autism or psychology in general. So, sit back, relax, and enjoy the No Limits podcast with Lisa Jakofsky.
We are here today with Dana Storino, the author of The Golden Bee and a paraprofessional with Chicago Public Schools. Dana, how are you doing today?
Good. How are you?
I am good. Thank you so much for being here. I wanted to ask first, you're also neurodivergent, correct?
Correct. Yes.
Tell us about your diagnosis and your journey to it.
So I was always struggling in school. I went to a private school. So, back in the 80s, which seems like a billion years ago, but, back then it was a lot different. At that time, we're in my area, the private schools were the better, school. Nobody really went to the public schools. So I was there thinking I was getting, my mom thinking like I'm getting the best education ever. And I was struggling because they're kind of like a one size fits all back then. Like they didn't have all these different types of teaching and, helping. And it wasn't like that. It was like, this is a lesson. You do this. If you don't do it, you get an F. That's it. So, I struggled a lot. There was always like, I had a couple things that I did consistently. Like I never had my name on my paper. I didn't read the direction. I just guessed on what I was supposed to do on the paper. So if it was like circling, I would, underline, and then I would get a 0. Even if all of the answers were correct, it didn't matter because back then they didn't make accommodations like that. It was just like, okay, you got a 0. You didn't read the instructions. So in their minds, they thought the more they punished, it was horrible. The more they punished me, the better I was going to get. But it ADHD doesn't work like that. Anyone on the spectrum, the punishing doesn't help. They still are, you have to have techniques and stuff. And they didn't know. So that was how it started. And it kept going. And then, in high school, my mom decided like, I'm going to get her tested. Cause at that point, weirdly, I was intelligent enough to test into a very prestigious high school in my area. So I got into that. But when I was there, once again, I'm struggling, I'm failing. So I had failed algebra and I failed a half a year of Spanish. And she's like, I'm getting her tested. So, cause it was weird how I was able to test in and get into this school, but then I couldn't do it, So, I did get tested and I probably was one of the first kids in the 90s to be, diagnosed with that.
Oh, wow. That is so interesting because it shows, how much potential you have and that just having that label doesn't stop you. I think that's so amazing. And it's crazy. Like you tested into this amazing high school. It's like, how did you test in when it was harder to do the work? That's so interesting. And I didn't know they had things like that in Chicago.
Yeah. Well, if you go to a private school, you have to take, they call it an entrance exam. And the schools look at all the scores of the entrance exams. And some schools only take like the higher scores. So I was picked, I got into this school. It's like when you tell people you're from that school, they're like, oh, you must be really smart. I'm like, nope, not really smart. Somehow I just magically got in. But yeah, so I got in. So that was like a giant red. Now looking back at it, I'm like, that's a huge red flag. Like, how was I able to get in? But then once I was in there, it was like I couldn't do it. So, that's that happened. And then, once I was in there and I did get tested, they did diagnose me. And then I was put on Ritalin, like the medicine they were just basically giving every kid with ADHD. Because even back then they didn't really know. There wasn't all those different, you were just under ADD. There wasn't even the H in there. It was just like, oh, you have ADD. and here's medicine, and now your life will be wonderful. And that's also not how it works either. So
I know. And it's so different now. It's really nice to hear your story and how it was later that you got diagnosed, and also hear how different it is now, because that gives families so much hope, that maybe are struggling with the fact that their child may have something underlying, or, struggling, trying to figure out, is their child going to have any potential, any kind of resources for them. So this is honestly so inspiring. It's so amazing to hear your story. And we're going to get into you being an author next. But that is so honestly incredible. And I can't wait for families to hear your story. And I hope, they really take away from it the positive potential for their own little ones.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I'm hoping too, because I mean, now being 44, I remember, my parents just being so overwhelmed and confused, and it was so frustrating for them because they knew I wasn't, I wasn't dumb. It wasn't that I was lacking any intelligence. It was the fact that I couldn't apply anything. Like I couldn't focus. I couldn't do the work, so that has to be so frustrating as a parent to watch your child struggle and not be able to know what to do to succeed, and when you're neurodivergent, it's not like anyone with autism or ADHD is like, you know what I should be doing? I should have a calendar and I should do this. Like there's no, like, you can't think like that. Like you need somebody to be like, this is what you need. This is how you do it. And then once you have those skills, you can apply them and you can become successful. That's why the special ed is so diverse learning. I like calling it diverse learning. Those classrooms are so important because those give you the skills necessary, and you can take those for your whole life and like apply it to everything. Like even like, we time the kids like, here, you work for this long, then you have a break. Adults you could do that as an adult. That's not something that stops in that classroom. You could take that and use it for everything, so give yourself the breaks, give yourself that kind of scheduling.
100%. I completely agree. And I love that you're bringing up all these different kinds of techniques you use in the classroom. We're going to definitely talk about that too. But I love how you're bringing that up because it shows families there are positive techniques they can use. There are different things that, aren't going to be too cumbersome or too much to use, and they can use when they're older too. I think that's so amazing. I'm super excited. That's incredible. You're also an author, so we're going to get into that next. Can you tell us about your book and your inspiration for it?
Yeah, the book is called The Golden Bee, and I kind of used my own experiences with my main character. The book is really centered around an entrepreneurial competition in their grade level. It's not centered around her having ADHD. She just finds out she has ADHD, and then that's her that's kind of her struggle, her, that she has to get through in order to win the competition. So I like that about that book because I didn't want it to be a book about ADHD. I wanted it to kind of have the main character have ADHD, and so that anyone who reads it, it creates an awareness, because I'm writing it in first person. So you're in her head. So you see what it's like, but also she struggles with regular stuff that every other sixth grader struggles with, friendships and wars and frenemies, like all that kind of stuff, So I wanted to do that all in one. And I think it came out great. Like my editor who helped me, she's amazing. And we both had like the same vision for this book. So that is so important. Like if you don't share that vision with your editor, it's, but she knew what I was trying to do, and it was great. Like we worked together and we were a great team. And I think like the end result is awesome. It's like better than I ever imagined.
That's so amazing. It sounds like such an incredible, inspiring book because it really shows individuals with ADHD and neurodivergent, they can do it too. That's so inspiring. I love that. And I love that ADHD is not the center of it. You really are showing them something different. And that's what we need so much more of. Where can people find your book?
Right. It is on Amazon, Books A Million, Barnes and Noble, anywhere where you can buy books online. It's everywhere. You can get the Kindle or the paperback. I'm trying to encourage, teachers to get it for the class. And I'm more than willing, if they put if they use a donor's choose or get one for a class set, I will help them promote it. Like, I'm fine with that, because I know it's hard. It's expensive. The paperback's $12.99. So it's expensive. It's an expensive book. But if you do a donor's choose and you get those, donors, you could get a whole class set. So I'm more than willing to help your class. Get a set for
That's
that.
so amazing. Where can people contact you for that?
You can find me on Twitter. I'm Dana. I think I'm Dana Storino on Twitter, and then I'm Dana_Storino on Instagram. And I just did the Hive thing. I don't know. Everybody's joining Hive, so I'm Dana Storino on Hive.
I don't even know what it is
I don't
either.
have enough social media.
I know. I've heard the name, but I don't know anything about that either.
I'm jumping on this Hive. Well, it's kind of fitting since it's the Golden Bee. I'm joining the Hive. I'm like, well, that makes sense.
Exactly. That's why I think it's going to appeal to kids, is it's about bumblebees. It sounds adorable. And then they learn this amazing lesson that can open them up to their friends, can help their friends kind of see their potential. That is so incredible. What is your favorite thing about being an author?
God, I love being an author. I really do. I wish I could quit my day job and just write all day. That would be like heaven. I love creating a whole world. I love making the characters come alive, and I take bits and pieces from people I know and just make these new people, but then they work together. It's just so fun to just be able to get so creative with even the events that happen in the book. A couple of the events in the book actually are true stories that happen to me. So a lot of the things that you read are things that happen. So, but even inventing funny things, or, I just love that. And I love making people laugh. I love not that I love making you cry, but I like making you feel something. And, that's probably the best thing, for someone. The ultimate thing was I read my book for a class before it was published in an Illinois school. I forgot what it was called. I'm sorry. But they wrote me all letters on what they liked and what they didn't. And a lot of kids were like, oh, I have ADHD. This is the best book I've ever read. And I totally get Stephanie. And that was this is why I'm doing this. This is so great. It's better than the money. Nothing will top that feeling of having a kid being like, thank you for writing this. It's my favorite book now. Oh, thank you.
So cute. That's the best part. They can relate. And we need more books like that. We need children to be able to see themselves in these books. That is so adorable. I love that. That is so cute. Do you have these in your classroom? Can you tell us about being a special education assistant in the classroom?
Yeah.
Being a parent?
Yeah. I like it a lot. As much as I say oh God, I want to quit my job. I'm I really can't, because I like being in the school environment, because first of all, I'm around kids and they keep me young and they keep me, I know, I feel like it makes my writing more authentic, because I see what's going on. I see what they're into, what they're doing, what they're saying. Also, I'm around all the different personalities, and every year I'm always meeting one or two new kids that I'm that kid's awesome. That's going to be a character. That is my favorite kid this year. I get to
that.
yeah, I mean, there's a couple kids this year. I'm I just want to do a whole series around this one little girl, because she's so awesome. I'm this little girl's the coolest little girl I've ever met. She's a character. So, and honestly, it's funny, I'm in a kindergarten class this year, and I do have in the class, we have 5 kids with special needs, but we do they're in the class, and then they don't get pulled in kindergarten. We have the diverse learning teachers, they push in for them. I don't think they start getting pulled till the upper grades. But there's a couple other kids which I'm not a doctor or anything by any means, but I know I know you just have not been evaluated yet. You definitely, but those are my favorites. So funny, they're cute, they're creative. Those are my favorite kids. And that's what I think the world needs to see. They're imaginative. They think differently. They make me laugh, because the things they say, it's something I would never think of. And I'm okay. Some of their responses is just
so love working together. We really would, because I'm the exact same way. You are amazing. You can tell how much you love your job, and I really hope we get more But these little ones, they sound incredible.
Oh, they're fun. They're funny. And this is the first year I've been in kindergarten. I've been usually in like third or above. I've never had the littles. So I'm like, oh my God, like I come home from work and I'm like, oh, I'm so drained. Like, because they're a lot of work. They're a lot of work.
Yeah.
Even the neurotypical kids, doesn't matter. They're just moving, like there's no stopping. It's just, and they're very needy and they love the attention from you. So I hear Miss Dana about 400,000 times a day. So when I come home, I'm like, just don't say my name. I just don't want to hear Miss Jane anymore. But it's like when I'm there, like, you're on the adrenaline and you're just going. And it's fun. Like they just crack me up. Like I don't know if I could do anything else at this point. Cause it's enjoyable.
You can tell. And that's why, I love doing this because we need to hear more about this stuff. We seriously would work together so much. I worked early in events with under 3-year-olds that are very similar.
Oh yeah, you just know. I mean, you don't have to be a doctor. You could. There's no kid is the same, but there's some similarities, and you're just like, yep, like I can tell, like you're special like me. So like I can see it, but I, and it's cool, but it's nice because I can, we talk to the teachers and sometimes the teachers don't see it or they're not aware because they don't know, like not that I know more than them, but from experiencing it myself, I can look at a kid and be like, oh yeah, I can see her, especially girls. Like the girls get, and that was why the main character was a girl, because girls get so like, they're so underdiagnosed. It's not even funny because they mask better. And they have, it's not the same like the boys. Like we have one boy who, he's the typical bouncing off the walls. You just like, it's so obvious. And we have two girls that are not as obvious, but I know because I was them, so I'm talking to the teacher. I'm like, listen, I know you can't tell the parents anything, but just keep your eye on these two. I just feel like, I mean, I know they're only 5. Sometimes it's immaturity. Sometimes it is. It's hard to do the diagnosis or whatever, but like you kind of know. And I like that because it's like I feel like I can give a little bit of a heads up, like whether I'm right or not, at least it's something, like I feel like I'm kind of giving some insight. So that's why I like being neurodiverse, working in that environment, because I feel like, okay, I can maybe, I'll help a few kids get diagnosed earlier and it will help them be better adults. That diagnosis, a lot of people say it's not important, but I think it is. Do you
it's
agree?
Not important. Oh my God.
I think it's important. No, like,
I do
or they don't like the label, but
say.
I think the label, and I hate that word label. I feel like it has such a negative connotation. I don't look at it as like label. I look at it as like, you have the awareness, and once you have that awareness, you can make better choices. It's not a label, like a bad thing. It's an awareness. And then, how to handle it, which for me, like even with my label of ADHD, a lot of the things like the behavioral or emotional back then, they didn't realize that was part of it. Like there's a spectrum, and that part of me was way worse than a lot of other kids who had it. That's what I struggled with. So, I would have liked to known that. I would have liked to be aware of that and like, be like, oh, that's my ADHD. This is why I'm reacting this way. I have to do A, B, or C to control that. Like, don't you think that would have be helpful for all of the kids? I don't know. That's just my opinion.
I agree. I can't believe people say like the diagnosis isn't important. The label part, I've heard that. The diagnosis is so important. It leads to so many resources. And that's what I drive home so hard for my families. And it sounds like you're doing such an incredible job. You're making such a positive impact, not just on the kids, but on the teachers. If you can help the teachers recognize the signs, it can help them going forward, help these kids a lot better. You're changing the minds of so many people. It's incredible. Thank you so, so much for everything that you do.
You're welcome. I mean, I never thought I would be like in this position, but I'm glad I am. I enjoy it. Actually, one of the diverse learning teachers came up to me and said, like, I read your book and now I have such a different outlook on my students. She's like, I literally walked in the next day and was like, looked at them completely different. And I'm like, that's good. Like, that's what I hope, like, see. Yeah.
Exactly. That is the best thing you can probably hear, in all honesty, because you're making such an impact. You're going to change so many lives, so many children and families. I can't wait to go get your book. I need to go get it on Kindle after this.
From what I've heard, everyone reads it in like a day and a half or a day. Like they're like, it's a quick read. I'm like, good. Yeah, that's what I wanted too. I wanted it to be for, because a lot of kids, they don't like to read, for the reluctant readers, it's a quick read. So it should be fast.
Amazing. I'm going to recommend it to my families. Like any resources I can bring to them, it helps tremendously. What is next for you? Do we have more books? Are you getting yay?
Reading a book now. It's actually an adult one where the main character has ADHD and she's finding love and she's a teacher and like she's making all these she made all these life choices, safe ones, because of her ADHD, and now she's like going to venture out and make more, I don't know, I would, not dangerous, but more, what would be the word? I don't different choices, and kind of test the waters. So, but I'm like, I had to do some major rewrites because I always do this. I write the book and then I'm like, oh, it would be better if I did A, B, and C. And so now I'm like rewriting it again. I did it with the Golden Bee and I'm doing it again. So it's going to probably be a while before this is out, but it's in like an adult romance with some other fun stuff in it. So yeah,
I love that because the adults are so underrepresented. It's great. I agree that we got to get them when they're young, but I think sometimes we forget about the adults. And I don't know, people come up to me and be like, can you write a middle grade one to help teenagers? Can you write one for adults to help them? So I think that's incredible. And I think, the hype up to it is going to make it even better when it comes out. Do you have a website?
I do. I have one, but I'm not good at that kind of stuff. It's a Wix website. It's like Dana Storino, whatever the Wix. I don't really promote it much because I don't have that much content on it. I'm better reached on Twitter or Instagram. My Instagram probably has the most stuff about my book on there. So, and my Twitter secondly, and now this Hive thing I just started, which we'll see. And I do have a Facebook too, which I don't go on that much. I have a TikTok. Everything's under Dana Storino. So if you Google me, you'll see stuff. And on my TikTok, I have some videos promoting the book and stuff. So you could definitely check that out too.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Dana, for being here. I love everything that you do. It is so nice to meet somebody else who's that passionate about working with little ones and books like you are. I love seeing everything you're doing make a change in this world. And I can't wait to see everything else that comes from your book. I'm so excited. But I also review books. I'll review it. I'll put it on my Medium account and let you know too. Dana, thank you so much for being here, for everything that you do. My name is Lisa, and this is No Limits Podcast with Lisa Jakowski. If you'd like to come on, you can visit www.lisajayauthor.com and send me a message. Thank you so much for listening.